Welcome everyone to our Backpack to Briefcase. Today we're very fortunate to hear from Tessa White. Tessa White is one of my heroes, you could say. I follow her on LinkedIn, and I've learned that she's on several other platforms, and you'll soon learn why she's a frequent guest speaker at the Huntsman School of Business. She's the founder of The Job Doctor, a company dedicated to moving employee performance from average to extraordinary and designing people strategies for companies of all sizes. Tessa is recognized nationwide as a media expert and is a frequent television guest and author on people strategy and career navigation. She has worked at the highest levels in both small startups and Fortune 50 companies, leading multiple restructures, acquisitions, and preparing companies for initial public offerings. She also serves on our national advisory board, and we are just so fortunate to hear from Tessa. So please, as you have questions throughout the presentation, type them in the YouTube, and we'll ask Tessa throughout, but we'll turn the time over to Tessa, and thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Well, I don't know everybody that's out there, but I'm going to assume most of you that are joining because you either are going to get a job soon or you need to get a job now. And so I'm going to distill down the best advice that I have of like 25 years of doing this and tell you what I know about this topic. Now they call me the Job Doctor, and I have a pretty big TikTok following. I decided at one point, so I did the corporate thing and I represented the best interests of the company. So behind closed doors, I know what's going on with your career. I know why you're rising, why you're falling, what's really happening, even though you don't know. And at some point I said, you know what? I want to represent the employee. I think that I want to be on the other side of this equation because I see what's happening and I want to give people straight talk about what they need to do and why they need to do it. So that's why I do what I do now. And it's really fulfilling. So it's going to be a lot of straight talk. I will not sugarcoat anything. So let me talk to you about this whole idea of dressing for success. The other day, I'm starting to look for a new car. And I take this very serious. I only buy a car every 5 years or so. And I was looking online and I found this beautiful, shiny, beautiful black 4Runner, and it just looked just incredible, and it just had just the right glint on it, the right tint, and it looked brand new. And then I was looking the following day and I found another black 4Runner, but the picture was kind of fuzzy and I couldn't tell if the car was really taken care of or not. Well, upon questioning and making phone calls, I found out it was the same car. So somebody had posted it with a certain set of pictures, and then they had sold it to another company, and that company was trying to sell it. So basically, I was looking at the same car, but dramatically different response to it. One, I had made judgments about what this car was or wasn't, and the other one, I just was like salivating. I was ready to just throw my money at the computer and get it right then. And the way that you dress is a lot like that. Because even though content is king in an interview and what you say is really important, our brains are so smart that they're capturing thousands of bits of information at any given time. And whether you think it's happening or whether it's not, it is. And your brain is telling you things about what you're seeing. So for instance, let's just talk about me for a minute. You have probably already decided if I'm somebody that you can trust or somebody that you can't trust. And that's not all because of what I'm saying. You're looking and your brain is taking in information. If I had worn a flowery peasant top, you would not trust me nearly as much right now. Now, I almost wore a black blazer, and a black blazer, you probably would have given me some trust as well. But I'll bet some of you are looking at the shininess of the blue jacket and it's capturing your attention. And I did that on purpose because your brain is taking in information. And now some of you may have a visceral reaction and not like my blue shiny jacket. However, many of you will make a judgment in your brain as you're listening to say, oh, that's somebody that is current, or that's somebody that's somebody who's kind of current with information or with the times. So it's really important that what you dress like and also how you present yourself does play a role in it. And how do I know? Because I actually can remember, I've interviewed about 2,000 people in my time. So that's a lot of people. And why is it that I can still remember? I can still remember the guy that came in with a completely wrinkled shirt with his collar just wrinkled. And why is it that after 2,000 people, I can still remember the guy whose teeth were so yellow? None of us dared say anything about it until we were after the interview. And shyly, one of my coworkers said, "Gosh, it was kind of distracting." And all of us just broke down laughing. And we said at the same time, the yellow teeth. Why can I remember that if I've had 2,000 interviews? It's because it plays a factor. And while it shouldn't be the deciding decision, it does you're taking in information to decide if you believe this person. So understand that the very purpose of an interview is there's only one purpose, and that is to make the interviewer believe what you're saying. Okay. You really need to let that sink in. It isn't to talk nice. It isn't to be able to get all your points in. It is only one thing, and that is to make them believe you, because everybody can tell me anything they want in an interview if you say you have a skill set. But it's not until I believe you that you have created a powerful interview. And part of believing a person is what they look like. Does the surrounding, and you're not even realizing you're making that connection, but does their surrounding support that you can believe them? Okay. So that's really important to understand. So we spend so much time in the interview trying not to discriminate, right? Companies have all these processes, and we'll take names off resumes even before managers see them, before we decide who we interview. But once you interview, even though as companies you try not to discriminate against age, gender, and all that fun stuff, we are discriminating in that the people that we talk to, we are trying to assess whether we believe them or not. And you are making judgments in that interview about it. So let's talk about some of the things you've got to do. What you wear. Let's talk about that first. It has to match the culture. And so you probably have heard a lot about business casual, or whether you should wear a dress or a suit. Wearing a dress or a suit can be as damaging as wearing jeans to a banking interview if you wear a suit to the wrong company. Okay, so like a Goldman Sachs or a financial industry, you're going to match the culture, and you're going to dress up because that's what's required of that industry. But if you showed up to Vivint Solar, a company that I worked at, and you showed up in a suit and tie or a dress, I promise you would be laughed at behind closed doors. And you would be instantly, there would be judgments being made about whether you fit the culture of the company. So I recommend that you first do research on a company. Are they fast and furious? Are they innovative and young? Or are they a company that has been around for a while? That's more, it's been there 20, 30 years. Are they a slower moving company? Healthcare, for instance, is more buttoned up. Financial industries, more buttoned up. But you take one of these high-tech companies that's been around for 5 years, and maybe there's 200 employees and they have ping pong tables and free lunches. I would never show up in a dress or a suit. I would dress more like a really great Nike ad because that's what that culture is going to accept. So do your homework. Whatever you wear, it needs to make you feel confident. So don't make the mistake of wearing something because you feel like it is the right thing to wear, but you feel weird in it. And you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you dress in something and all of a sudden, you're like, yeah, I think this is the right thing, but I just feel awkward in it. It doesn't feel like me. In an interview, you've got to be you. It's got to just exude who you are. And that's one reason I wear this jacket. It's a plastic blue jacket, but it's so me. And I feel good when I wear it. So make it confident. And then I'm going to teach you the TV rule. I do quite a bit on television and film a lot. And I learned this early on. Don't wear patterns. You wear solid colors if at all possible. Solid colors are going to, especially in a Zoom world, solid colors do better. And so solid colors are best. And for women, don't wear your big jewelry. Now, I wear this ring all the time, and I'm going to put it on for a few minutes as we talk. And you're going to see that when I'm explaining things, it's just distracting. So you've got to be careful that you don't have the big earrings, the great big necklace when you're interviewing. Even though it's a great ring, isn't it? I love turquoise.
I think that's a great point, Tessa, because so many times we stress the clothing, but we don't pay attention to, are we wearing too much makeup? Is our hairstyle, does it not match the culture and jewelry? So that's a great point. Thank you.
Yeah. And men, no tie unless you're, of course, interviewing for one of these more buttoned up places like a consulting company or a bank or a healthcare, something like that. Then I think a tie is absolutely positively great. If there's anybody on here that's over 50, you're in a unique class, my friends, because ageism is alive and well, and you're going to have to be careful about the way you dress. Don't dress like you're going to church, don't dress like mom and dad. That is a big, big no-no, because I'm one of these people over 50. It's already challenging enough to have the employer believe that you are current with your information and that and that you've stayed current with learning. So make sure that you also dress like you're current. That would be really important.
Tessa, we just had a question come through on this topic. Is it better to be safe and overdress or risk being a little bit more casual?
I would err on the side of overdressing rather than underdressing, with this caveat. Don't go as far as going into a suit. If there's a question, I'd rather see you wear more of a business casual, a nice, for women, and dress pants, a nice blazer and a nice top, or for men, a nice pair of dress slacks with maybe a more casual shirt with a jacket or something, like a casual jacket, not a suit coat jacket. So don't go too formal, don't go too informal. How's that for lack of clarity? I also want to talk to you about Zoom, because we're in the Zoom factor, and hopefully with any amount of luck, this is going to go away soon and we're going to be back to normal. But Zoom is a thing, right? And we're all interviewing in a Zoom environment. And so there's a couple of things I want you to know about Zoom. First of all, energy. The way you portray yourself in an interview face to face, you can be yourself. The energy flows. But when you're on Zoom, you may have noticed this, you can't convey the same energy unless you amp it up a little bit. And so when you're doing a Zoom interview, you're naturally going to come across as less energetic. And it's actually incredibly important, because people are looking at how alive your eyes look. Is this person going to, go into the job and be a zombie? Or is this person going to go into the job and actually be excited to do it and dig in? So your energy level is incredibly important over Zoom. And you're going to feel a little silly. But I also learned this on TV. You got to amp it up. Just amp it up a little bit extra, and you'll find that you'll do far better in the interviews. And lighting. Okay, I'm going to show you this experiment. Lighting is really important, just like that car analogy I told you about. Now I'm going to be the forerunner on the fuzzy picture for a minute. Okay, now if I'm interviewing somebody like this, yeah, it's not terrible, right? It's okay. But if I get to have some light on my face and you can see my expression and you can see the enthusiasm, it's going to play better in your interview. So lighting's really important. I recommend that you get one of those little $15 round lights, and you can put it just right on your computer and turn it on when you have an interview. And sound. The other thing is sound, and you probably learned this. I think the number one phrase for 2020 is, hey, you're on mute. Don't you think you've heard that more than any other phrase other than unprecedented? Everybody says that too. It is unprecedented, but you're on mute.
Just when you think you're practiced with making sure you're mute, you'll still make the mistake.
Every single time. So you just have to make sure that sound is good, and you've got your notifications turned off on your computer. I did this huge webinar, and I forgot to turn off my notifications, and I'll be turned like every 2 seconds, ding, 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 and you're just so embarrassed. It's distracting, and it throws you off your game. So as far as Zoom goes, that's really, really important. All right, before I go into the next one, are there any questions about what I'm saying about what you look like and how you present yourself? Is anything coming in? If it doesn't, that's okay. When it does come in, you can just tell me. Okay.
It looks like we're all.
Okay, perfect. Now, what you say is so much more important than what you look like. You know, what you look like might account for 30% of the overall because your brain's taking everything in, but what you say and the content of what you say is so important. So I was thinking about what are my top tips after seeing thousands of people interview? What would I tell you are the very most important things that I could teach you about interviewing? And so I am going to give you Tessa's top tips for today. It's kind of like the top 10 list on Dave Letterman that he used to do, except there's not 10 and I'm not Dave Letterman. So top tips. Number one is if you want to maximize the pay that you're going to get, don't bring up pay. Now that sounds really contradictory, but the goal in the interview, I'm going to keep pounding this home, is to make them believe you and make them want you. And the further you get in the interview process, the more they want you, the more that they cast other candidates aside, the higher leverage you have on pay. So if you're talking about pay in that very first interview, you're going to set whatever the pay is, and you're going to get less. I promise you, you will get less. But if you wait until they are frothing and salivating over you, at the very end, when there's one candidate or two candidates, you will find that you have far more leverage to get a higher pay package. So please wait. So that's tip number one. Show me the money, right? The other one is so many people they end their interview on a low point. The questions that I hear are this, and you're going to nod your head and go, oh, I've done that. They'll say, do you have any questions for me? And the candidate will say back, yes, can you tell me when you're going to be making a decision? Or they say, yeah, I'm just wondering how I stack up. These are garbage questions. And this is why. That last question is your opportunity to leave on a high note, and it is your opportunity to stand out and shine. And instead of the energy going this way, to go this way. Your question should be back at the company, and one of these questions, something like, can you tell me what the top 3 things are that, what is the biggest problem that you are trying to solve with this, if you haven't learned that yet in the interview? Or can you tell me what would it mean to knock it out of the park? What is the 1 or 2 things that have to be done to knock it out of the park if I were hired? Listen to the answer, because then you're getting them involved. Involvement equals commitment, okay? Understand that human psychology as well. And then you end by saying, wow, here's how my skills can do that for you. That is how you end on a high note. And that's how you actually can get that extra, the extra points in your side of the column to get the job at the end. So that's my hot tip number 2, test tip. And then tip number 3 is, if you are not clear on your value proposition going into the interview, I promise you that they will not be clear on it. You have to be clear on the value you're going to bring to this role before you walk in. Don't expect that your interviewer is somehow going to magically decide for you what your value proposition is, because it doesn't work that way. In fact, great interviews, candidates actually know what their value proposition is. They know how they're going to work it into the interview, and they draw conclusions for the manager for the hiring manager versus the other way around. Because remember, after every question, the interviewer is drawing a conclusion. They're saying, I like the candidate, I don't like the candidate. They're qualified or they're not qualified. Now, if you can turn the tables on that, and you can actually draw the conclusion for them so they don't have to do that work, A, you get to pick the conclusions that they draw. Woo! B, it makes the interview really simple for an interviewer, which also has this human dynamic, this human psychology element to it that helps you do better. So it's really important that you do that. And let's see, it's 9:19. Do you think I have time to do an example, or do you want me to wait until the very end to see if I do?
Yeah, let's do an example.
Okay, so let's say that the question is what's one of your greatest strengths, and I say customer service. Okay, great, right? Customer service. I don't believe you yet, but okay, I have an answer. So that's a good, but a better answer is, oh, customer service. Then you share a story to make them believe you, right? You give them the behavioral example. Yeah, I can remember this customer called us. She'd gone through 10 agents before me, and nobody helped her. And she was just trying to get a credit on her account. I stayed with her, and I figured out that what the problem was. I wasn't able to credit her the full amount, but I was able to explain why, credited her $1,000 on her account, and turned her into an excited customer by the end. She actually wrote a letter to my boss saying thank you and said that she'd be a customer for life. Now, that story turns it into a better, because I believe you, because you shared a specific story. And actually, the more details you can share on the story, like names, and I'm just trying to get through it quickly, the better I believe you. But to make it the best, and this is to the point I'm trying to teach you, and nobody does this, I draw the conclusion for the interviewer that I want them to draw. And I tie it up with a bow and say, from this story, what I hope you will learn is that I'm the kind of person that isn't satisfied with just doing my job. I'm the kind of person that's going to go the extra mile because I understand that serving the customer is going to get us the business that we need, and it's going to make me the best at what I do. Now, when you do that, then you help that person understand your value proposition, because what you're doing is saying, here's this skill set that I have, and you know you need it, but here's how it's going to be useful to you as a company. So that is the way you create a value proposition. Okay, and the last one on my test is top tips. Human connection is incredibly important. It's part of the psychology that I'm talking about. And so creating a human connection with a person so that you're not just a robot and just one of 20 people they're interviewing is incredibly important. You create human connection in your interview in a couple of ways. You create it, first of all, all of you are going to have the opportunity when they say, hey, tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself is not an interview question, okay? So stop thinking that it is. And if you tell me one more time what your degree is when I ask that, I'm going to kill you. Don't say, oh, well, I just graduated with my degree in PR. So did every other person I'm interviewing. And I don't care, because it's just like mush. You're all the same. What that question is an icebreaker. And an icebreaker is intended to create a human connection. So don't miss the opportunity to do that in your interview. That is an opportunity for you to tell something about yourself that creates some kind of a bond with someone. And you pick things that have implied traits to them. Like, I love to fly fish. I fly fished all over the world. This is a true fact about me. Well, guess what? What does that say about me? It says I'm adventurous. It says that I like to try new things. And I didn't even have to tell them that I like to try new things. It's inherent in the answer. So that gave me an opportunity to create a human connection, as does every time you tell a story, a behavioral example to illustrate your strength. You have an opportunity to create a connection. So when you practice your interview, if you're telling your spouse or practicing with your spouse and they say, and you tell the story and they say, that's a boring story, or it doesn't have enough details, or you're losing me, then you haven't done it right. But the minute that you lean in and you want to know the outcome of that story, you know that you've created a human connection and they want to know the outcome. So those are my Tessa's tips of the day. And I know we're getting close on time, so I want to leave a little bit of time for you to ask any questions that you have as well.
Thank you, Tessa. I just wanted to reiterate a key point I took away from your tips. I think, but don't finish the interview strong. And I think you really hit on that so well, is to make that connection for them, to be able to walk them through why you would add value. And so I love that. Thank you. So we have a couple questions that have come in. One of them is, I've been on recruiting teams and interviewed women in sleeveless tops. I was taught this was inappropriate. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't think that there's a rule book anywhere that says absolutely you can't do it, but I don't think it's very professional, and I would not recommend it.
Great, thank you. And then next, what strategy should you take when researching the culture of a company? What's the best way to find out about a company's culture?
I think the website gives you great clues into a company. So that's the first place I'd go is a website. Second place I would go is I would go on LinkedIn and see if anybody that you know or you're connected with works at that company. Even if there isn't anybody that you know, LinkedIn is the most friendly place on the planet. I don't know if it's just my experience, but I send notes to strangers all day long and say, I need some help with this person that wants to get a job there. Can you tell me about the company? And they always are so kind. So send notes and ask somebody if they would be willing to tell you a little bit about the company, what's really like on the inside.
That's a great idea. Thank you. And for all of our students, we have an alumni page on LinkedIn too. So even if you don't know someone at the company, you can find them online. It's just so much more likely that they'll want to help a fellow Aggie. So that's great tips. So another question that we have, so we know that someone makes a first impression on you, like you've talked about, and really the first 7 to 10 seconds. So in addition to dress, we have mock interview day coming up on February 19th, where students get to have these speed interviews with employees.
I love that day.
And like you said, it's difficult to stand out, and you don't want to just say, this is my major, boring stuff that every other student's going to say. What are some other ideas of what students could say to connect with their interviewer?
This is a loaded topic. I will try to go fast. There's I teach a framework for interviews that works so well. I say 3, 2, 1. You've got to be prepared with three pocket examples of strengths. That means, what are things I do well, hard or soft skills, and you have to know what they are, the story you're going to associate with it, and the conclusion that you want them to draw. And you have to practice that. You have to have 2 facts about yourself. For the icebreaker question, tell me about yourself. Things that you know imply good things that are really interesting about yourself that will make a connection, and 1 negative, one weakness that you have with an associated example of the things that you are doing positively to overcome that. So that's a very fast way of saying that. 3, 2, 1. But if you practice 3, 2, 1, you will be prepared for an interview that will help you get through, and you'll be loads ahead of someone else. And I should just mention, I'm teaching the Ultimate Job Seekers Workshop. It's a bundle that has a master class with a workbook on how to actually do this program that I do. And if you're interested in that, it's kicking off February 1st. And just send me a message through thejobdoctor.com if you're interested, and I'll send you information on it. Or follow me on TikTok, and you'll also see some discounts on that. Okay, keep going. All right. It looks like we've got some problems. So I would just say that making sure that you're prepped for the interview, your examples are most powerful. Pick examples that can create a human connection, and be very, very clear on your examples. The story should have these components. What was the problem I'm trying to solve? What did I do? What was the outcome? And try to, when you say the outcome, don't just generally say it was a good outcome, but try and connect it back to data, to numbers, anything that will show me that this is something that was adopted company-wide. It increased this by 20%. We were able to get X amount of new customers as a result of this. That's the way you tell an example or a story that's going to be powerful.
Thank you, Tessa. And I'm sorry, my Zoom kicked me off for a minute, so I'll have to watch the YouTube recording so I don't miss anything. Looks like we're about out of time, so I just want to wrap up by saying thank you so much, Tessa. We appreciate your time and expertise. I know if you're like me, you still want more. 30 minutes is just not enough on this topic or to hear from Tessa. So she'll be speaking again on the panel at 10:30, so make sure you join again there. And then Tessa, could you tell us about a few other avenues where we could continue?
Yes. Please follow me on TikTok. I'm Job Dr. Tessa on TikTok. I post every day, so you're going to get more content there than you'll get any other place. You'll find me on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. But YouTube is a great place to go. We're loading 20 videos this week, and they will be longer trainings, free. So you get this great content, and that's the Job Doctor. So follow me on YouTube and you'll start to see a ton of content dropping.
Great. I know I'm late to the game, but I just downloaded TikTok last week, and so I will be following you shortly. And thank you again, Tessa. We so appreciate you. Thank you for everyone watching. Make sure for all students, you're registering for mock interview day on February 19th. This is a great time to be able to put into practice the things that Tessa talked about. So sign up for mock interview day on February 19th. And thank you everyone for joining. Have a great day.